Kia ora, welcome to Under the Checkered Flag, MotoGP edition. I'm your host Kate, and we're just going to jump right in.
We have had our first race of the 2025 season, and it was at Thailand. And so Pozza, Kelly, and I are going to talk about it. But before we get into the absolute racing action, I want to talk about Trackhouse's Golf livery because I think perfection may have been achieved on a motorcycle. It's absolutely stunning, in my opinion. So I want to know, do you guys share these thoughts or do you absolutely hate it? And if you hate it, why are you wrong?
I think I don't know if it would be the right thing to say, but I have one word, and that one word is smack. Oh my god, that is a good looking livery. I love it. I love anything like golf on a bike or a car. I think it's an easy thing to say. Like on the Williams last year, beautiful. On the Trackhouse bike this year, beautiful. It just looks good on anything. And honestly, keep it as the honestly just keep it as delivery this entire year. Please. Please, 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 please keep it as the year livery because it looks so good. I love it.
So I thought it was better than the one that they revealed at the livery reveal, and wouldn't at all be against them. Wouldn't at all be against like them keeping it for the next few races, the next season, maybe even the next few seasons after that. I did think it was quite nice.
Okay, we're definitely all in agreement that it is one very good looking livery. Something that's caused a lot of debate would be something that either looks good or doesn't look good, depending on who you are. And I am talking about the new graphics update. I'll admit, when they first came out, I was super against them purely because the yellow flag graphic didn't show what sector the yellow flag was in. This was remedied throughout the weekend, so I'm much more open to the graphics now. I do wish that they'd the timing tower was a little bit more see-through. I don't know why the fancy words just forgotten out of my head, but I just wish that was more see-through. But other than that, overall, I'm actually okay with it. But what about you two?
I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's as bad as some people made it out to be. I just think the yellow flag thing, I think the yellow flag graphic is just ugly. I really, really miss the one that we used to have where it kind of just like popped down at the side. You saw it, it was easy to see, it wasn't too yellow. I think that's my only complaint of the actual graphics itself. I think the timing tower looks good. I think it's different. It's just the yellow flag graphic. It really doesn't work with me at all, but it looks good otherwise.
Yeah, I quite liked it. I had the same sort of thing that Kate had when they sort of first started with it, that there were a few problems they needed to iron out, but in the end, I think pretty much all of them were fixed. I think the main one was during practice when they'd come across the line, it'd take like upwards of 5 seconds to update on the tower sometimes, but they fixed that really quickly. Aside from that, I thought they actually looked pretty good, especially in a race when all the positions are changing and whatnot. And the thing that sort of excites me is whenever they bring in a new graphics package, they always like build onto it and add new things. And yeah, I think that could be exciting when they do start adding new things to it.
All three of us in agreement. Two subjects in a row. This is going to be a very dull podcast. It might not be, though, because let's start talking about Moto 3. Because there's a few things I want to mention here. And one of them is my boy Stefano Neppa. He did really well. He put it on the front row. He did have a bit of a rough race, backwards and forwards. He didn't quite get his podium, and I was absolutely devastated. So that was unfortunate. The podium was in P3, Adrian Fernandez, P2, the rookie Alvaro Carpe, and in P1, Jose Antonio Rueda. Now, I've got to say, this was a stunning performance by Carpe, but the rider I want to ask you both about, So give me your thoughts on the race, but I also want your thoughts on David Munoz because he punted someone in the race, got a long lap penalty. He then crashed before he could serve that long lap penalty. Post race, the stewards looked at it, saw that it was while under yellow flags when marshals are out on track, so it has now been upgraded to a pit lane start at the next Grand Prix he participates in. So that will be Argentina. I feel like this is a broken record when it comes to Munoz, and I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on his penalties and on him in general, as well as your thoughts on the race.
All in all, it was a great race. Definitely more dramatic than I expected, and unfortunately more dramatic than I expected. I did have my eye on Scott Ogden as he had a great qualifying on a new bike. I thought this is a start of something special, and it could have been because he was in the points, he was doing okay, and then it didn't go great because he crashed on the last lap. Last lap. It sucked. I almost cried. There was a lot of crashes otherwise. I did have my eye on Cormac Buchanan because I did think he could make up a few places, but then he crashed on his own accord, unfortunately, into Eddie O'Shea. So that was another one of my riders, two of them actually, that didn't do too well. But Cormac did come back and finished in 15th and earned himself a point. So definitely progress, and hopefully his next race will go better. Yeah, David Munoz, I love him. Okay, I love David Munoz. I'll say it, I admit it. But my God, what he did was stupid. Now we have to acknowledge the fact that he wasn't the only one doing that. I believe it was Lunetta he was scrapping with. Lunetta did push him off first. Now I'm not saying he did as bad. I'm saying Munoz retaliated to what had happened to him first, but he did it in so much more of an aggressive way, a dangerous way as well. I don't agree with it, but what I'm saying is it's partially justified because it did happen to him first. He didn't start it.
No, Lynetta definitely was aggressive, but nowhere near as aggressive as David was. I think his move was firm but fair, but that's just me.
Yeah, I didn't think personally it was the smartest move from Munoz. Obviously, we never want to see riders intentionally trying to make contact with others and pushing them off and whatnot. But the reason that the stewards came up with that it was like penalized harsher was because he actually did it under yellow flags when there were marshals on the edge of the track helping, I believe it was Tayo Furisado, restart. So yeah, just that combination of things didn't really sit well with, I know, me and a lot of people. Uh, but yeah, I think it's a justified penalty, and if hopefully it's harsh enough that it sort of prevents him from doing it again in the future.
Yeah, hopefully he learns from this, but given the fact that time and time again it's his name being mentioned and his name getting penalised, I'm hoping that with Crayfar being in the decision-making box that he will definitely be harsh, firm but fair. So looking at Moto 2, we had a pretty stunning battle for that final podium place between Diogo Moreira and Senna Agius. Fortunately for the Australians, Senna Agius picked up that podium spot. In P2 was Aaron Canet, and in P1 was Manu Gonzalez. Manu was super impressive all weekend and super confident. But I do want to shout out Senna here because he got P3, a podium, after a long lap penalty. I just thought that was really, really impressive. And I just think it was a great battle to watch between him and Moreira. So I'm very happy we got that because obviously MotoGP wasn't as exciting this weekend. So it was quite good to have Moto 3 and Moto 2 good battles at least. But what did you guys think?
Yeah, honestly, props to Senna Aegis. He definitely pulled out something that I didn't really expect from him, given past performances. But yeah, definitely pulled something special out this race, which is really awesome. Love Aaron Canet in his Divine P2, gives me podcast points and makes Kate happy. So progress. Manuel Gonzalez, I did think he was going to win it. I think it was a given. He's been proper, no, not dominant, but he's been really very quick. And compared to some of the competition in Moto2 this year, I don't think it's going to be too much of a difficulty for him. But yeah, honestly, really good. Shout out to Danny Holgado though, who did finish 8th in his Moto2 debut, which I think is insanity compared to where some of the other rookies came, like Colin Vire in 20th and Alonso in 21st, although both of them are currently in injury recovery. I think it's just insane from Holgado. So yeah, honestly, great race. I'm just a bit devastated over Zonta van de Gorberg after his testing. His testing was like in the top 5 consistently, and then yeah, wasn't great. So live, laugh, love.
Yeah, with the Senna Agis thing, I was kind of a bit disappointed because it did cost him a second place, the incident with Vietti, but you still have to be happy with a podium even after a penalty. So happy, but a bit disappointed because it could have been a bit better. But that's how racing goes. It gave Kinnett his favourite place, so in the end it worked out. Apart from that, the only other thing that I think we haven't mentioned yet, unless we did, I kind of stopped listening, was Danny Holgado up in 8th in his debut race. He was the first of 2 rookies in the points. Adrian Huertas was the other one in 14th, looking good at a track he's never been to. So that could be an interesting battle that develops throughout the year. And yeah, some of the rookies looked good.
Kelly mentioned our predictions just there, and while we'll do a dive into them next week in our pre-race show, I do want to shout out to Andrew, who commented last week his predictions down below. He didn't even comment about Moto3, and he still completely demolished us with his predictions. So good job, Andrew. Definitely keep it up, because at the moment you're winning the podcast prediction fantasy, I suppose. You can take the title off Pozza and get yourself a little trophy. But I digress. Moving on to MotoGP. Friday was a little bit of an interesting day because we saw practice, and Alex Rins had all of his lap times on Friday cancelled because it looks like LCR, I still think he's at LCR. It looks like Yamaha forgot to swap out his transponder, so he was using an illegal transponder, so all his lap times got cancelled. Not only that, but during that practice session, we saw both Franco Morbidelli and Somkhat Chandra impede other riders, and both of them were slapped with a three place grid penalty for Sunday's Grand Prix. But other than that, as we sort of guessed on Saturday, Sunday was a snooze fest. Saturday was kind of a snooze fest. One exciting prospect that did come out of it was the rookie Ayagura. Incredible weekend from him. Very, very impressive. But that's pretty much all there is to say about it from my perspective. What do you guys have about MotoGP that you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's not really much else to say. Am I delighted that Marc Marquez won both? Absolutely. Am I terrified it's going to be another one of those seasons where he dominates everything with very little competition? Also, absolutely. Um, Thailand normally does produce a decent enough race, and for MotoGP, both of them, it just really didn't. There was nothing special. There was nothing really awesome about it. There was like a devastating thing in Pedro Acosta crashing out, but like that's it, I guess. There's really not a lot to say except Honda's having a bit of a comeback, a bit of a better one. So progress in a way, but yeah, there's just nothing special apart from Ayagura, and honestly, about that, I'm really happy. I think he deserves it. I think he's a great rider, and I think he can do some really special things, along with Fermin Aldeguer if he hurries up on his development.
Yeah, the only real thought that I had, which I believe I may be stealing from one of the journalists that I saw on Twitter, I honestly can't remember where I saw this, but it was saying that if the only action we're really getting in fights for the lead was like what we saw with Marc Marquez letting his brother through to keep his tire pressures in check, then it's not really the most entertaining. Uh, so all I can really say is I hope Michelin get it right with the new tire they're planning to bring in, I believe, next year, and hopefully it actually works from the get-go and sort of improves that so it doesn't have to keep happening and being sort of the only source of excitement in some races.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. Michelin need to up their game to make sure that we do get some more exciting racing, and the tire preservation isn't so much of a thing. That being said, I'm kind of glad Mark didn't completely dominate it, and so we weren't just fully asleep. We were like, when's Mark going to make his move? Because it was so clear that he could. Which brings me to my final question of the podcast today. Given the fact that Mark was so dominant this weekend, doing the pole position, sprint win, and race win, do you think that he's going to continue this form throughout the season? Or do you think that he's going to fall off a bit and not podium every race, sort of thing? Yes, for the title? Or is he going to have more of a challenge?
Honestly, I think it's going to be a bit of a clean sweep for him. Close enough. Maybe Pekka Bagnaia will win a race or two in between, but I think it's going to be quite easy for Mark. I don't think there's going to be a lot of competition even in the races, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Like, I want Mark to win, absolutely, but I'd prefer a bit of like a 2023, 2024 like title fight where they actually get to like the last round. I prefer that, but it might not happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, I hope for the sake of the fans and sort of just like the entertainment factor that the likes of Bagnaia, Alex Marquez, those sorts of guys do end up fighting Mark a bit more, do end up taking points off of him. I don't really see it happening that often, which is kind of a shame, but I can hope.
Hopefully, when Jorge is back, given the fact that Agura was up there on the Aprilia, he will give us some action and be fighting at the front. So that is it from us and our rundown from Thailand. As always, thanks so much for listening, and we will be back next week with an Argentina preview show. I know, quite surprising considering I thought that Argentina wasn't going to happen this year. So I'm quite excited it is, because I will never forget that image of Jack Miller, I believe it was, sitting at the front of the grid with everyone else multiple places behind him. That was just, it's such an iconic image. I just love it. And every time we go to Argentina, I think about it. So have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.